Imagine having the ultimate competitive advantage. Imagine every piece of your content attracting ideal clients to you, not chasing them down. That's not a dream, it's what's possible with the right strategy. And if you haven't heard by now, Jeb and LinkedIn expert Bryn Tillman have written the playbook that will evolve the way you sell. Their new book, The LinkedIn Edge, is your ultimate resource for turning LinkedIn into a revenue-generating machine. You'll learn how to prospect with power, network with a purpose, and build a brand that attracts clients to you. Not only that, but they dive into the fundamentals of using AI so that you won't get left behind. Don't wait. The LinkedIn Edge is on sale everywhere you buy books. Welcome back to the Sales Gravy Podcast. I'm Jeb Blount Jr., and today we have a very special episode. Our team has built an incredible set, and if you're only listening to this podcast, we filmed this. So head over to youtube.com/salesgravy. That's youtube.com/salesgravy, and you can watch this amazing episode and this incredible set for the holiday season that our team has put together. Again, give us a like and subscribe when you head over there, so that way you know when all of the new episodes launch, and you can listen and watch all of the Sales Gravy podcasts on youtube.com/salesgravy.
Hi, I'm Ashley Blount, and our gift for you this holiday season is compiling the best of Q4. Today, we're going to go through a couple of different episodes and see what tips and tricks you can kick off the new year with.
And look, I really appreciate you all joining us. This is a very special set that we put together. So again, head over to YouTube. But as we go into this, we want to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays from the Sales Gravy team. Please let us know in the comments below on Spotify, on Apple, and if you see this on social media, just let us know what you've got going on going into 2026. And we look forward to having more conversations with you in the new year. All right, let's do the first video. Prepare your mindset and create the discipline to be effective every single day. Will, I want to throw this one to you first, and then Jeb, you follow up behind him.
I'll go short with my answer because it pulls on the heartstrings. Is my family and I, family over everything. My extended family, my immediate little 5-pack that I refer, my wife and I call our family, our kids refer to themselves as a 5-pack. Is you have to have a carrot. And you might have multiple carrots over the course of your life, but you think of an image of a horse and a carrot. In the oldest of times, the way you got a stubborn horse to go forward, even when it thought it couldn't, you put a carrot on a stick and hang it from its bridle, and it sticks in front of its face and it goes for it. You always have to define your carrot. Your carrot can be ambiguous and can be ethereal, like I love my family and I want to provide for them, but it should be something a lot more specific and tangible, like I want to go and earn a commission check of X, or I want to go and buy a boat, or I want to build generational wealth with real estate and investing. My daughter, when she was 5 years old, bought me a carrot Christmas ornament, and I keep it with me. My desk is far away from the studio that we're recording in, but I would grab it if I had it. But I carry that with me every day. I've had a lot of carrots in my life. I've been very fortunate to achieve them. But I always carry that with me to remember that that's what motivates me. Is my carrot is my family and finding another carrot for them. My wife and I always joke when I'm in a rut, because it happens. She says, "I need to get you a new carrot." And so that's my number one motivation, is to stay solid and steadfast on define what your carrot is, figure out that goal, and that will be what pushes you past that point where everybody else is going to give up, and probably be justified to do so. But that's what's going to separate the best from the worst.
When we think about mindset and sales, we have to start with the fact that sales is hard. It's difficult. It's challenging. It's the hardest profession in business, hands down, because it's really the only profession where you have to do something that is completely unnatural for most human beings, and that is to go out and find rejection and bring it home. Everything that you do, every ask that you make, you have the potential to be rejected and have that rejection hurt you at a deep, painful level. And that's just the truth. Sales is full of ups and downs. It is wins and losses. It is everything that most people don't want to do, which is why we get paid so much to do this, because it's difficult. But with that, you got to go back to mindset. So I think the mindset question is important, and the carrot matters.
Ashley, that was a really powerful clip between Will and Jeb. If you haven't seen that episode, it's an Ask Jeb between Will Frattini, who is one of our wonderful friends over at Zoominfo, and Jeb that we did a few months ago. And that's one of our most popular clips that we've ever put out. So what did you get from that conversation, Ashley?
Defining the goals this is a popular time of year to start looking forward and figuring out what you want to do next year. But I think it's also good to remember, like Will mentioned, sometimes you go through multiple carrots. So just making sure as you're working through processes and setting and defining your goals, just knowing that once you achieve one, it's okay to go ahead and figure out what the next one is. You know, when I onboard clients and introduce them to our wonderful catalog of on-demand courses, the first one that I always put in front of them is the goal setting. Mm-hmm. Because if you can't define your goals, you don't know where to start working.
Yeah. I want to tie it to something more tangible from our side. And, you know, if you look back on the year, this has been a really intense year for the podcast, Ages in particular. Among all the other projects we have going on, when in 2024 and 2023 was a pretty good year for the podcast, but in 2024 we had released maybe 5 or 6 or 7 podcasts in the entirety of 2024. And going into this year, we set the carrot up to deliver 3 podcasts a week for the entire year of 2025, which was an insanely big carrot.
Yes.
And it didn't feel possible, but now we're sitting in the studio on, you know, being released on Christmas and during the holiday season. And this will be the number 52 podcast of the Sales Gravy Interview podcast. And that is consistent every single week throughout the entire year. We also have 2 other podcasts we produce every single week throughout the entire year. I could not be more proud of the team and how much effort we put into this. And we've got the carrot. Mm-hmm. And that's such a strange feeling to have sitting right here, is that we got the carrot and now we have to go get another one. And there are so many times this year where we could have quit. I mean, there were times when it was hard, it was difficult. We didn't have everybody in the office.
We've had to pivot.
Ashley has stepped in for me and you did a great job. And I've had other people come in, and it hasn't been easy. But, you know, sitting here with this carrot, I think, okay, now what other carrot can I go get? And as a sales professional, I think the same way, that commission check or that deal. And often in the last year or so, you know, as a person who is in sales, one of the key things that's really driven me is not, I need the commission check or to close those deals. Sometimes it is customer based. Like, I really want to gain a logo for just my own personal, like, belt that I want to put a notch on, right? I want to go get that customer. And some of it is, I genuinely thought that I could deliver way more value than they even knew that I could. And so it just felt like the carrot was, I had to win that deal, not for me, but for them. And when I got those carrots, it was really, really exciting, because I would come home and I would like hug my kids and we would high five and I would tell them all about it. And those carrots were so motivating. Mm-hmm. I love what they talked about here. It's sales is hard. Profession is hard. Everything we do is rejection based. You can't adjust yourself and beat yourself into the most successful version of yourself. You have to reward yourself as well. And when you get those carrots, it feels really rewarding.
Mm-hmm. And I think the best way to sum it up is, you know, using the podcast example, you defined the carrot, you developed the plan, and then everybody agreed to stay consistent and committed. And that's the mindset piece of it. You have to be committed to reach that end goal, to reap the rewards.
Well, you said the team. Mm-hmm. And I think the analogy that if you're an individual contributor listening to this is, you know, we set the plan, we built the plan, and then we executed the plan, and everyone was committed to that plan. Well, everyone in your case, I'm looking at the camera, everyone in your case is right here between the 8 inches between your ears. So you just have to be committed. And if it's a we, look, sometimes I got different personalities going on, talk to all kinds of different people in my head. And whatever's going on up here, we are going to be committed to getting this thing done. And that's, you know, so important for pushing things across the line. I think it's time for our next clip, Ashley.
Let's go.
Let's go back to your operations mind. Okay, so your operations mind, you've already started, and maybe you're already down the road, but you're starting to build out your ICP, which is your ideal customer profile, which is they need to be this, they need to be that, and they need to be this. That's going to be helpful when you start thinking about your RBOs, or those are reflex responses, brush-offs, and objections, but your prospecting objections when you're reaching out to these organizations. Because if you're calling on the right organizations, it's going to be much easier to dial in your responses when you get those type of objections when you're prospecting.
If you've got a wide brush or, everybody, then it's going to be harder. The problem you have is you have $300,000 in revenue. You want to get to multi-million-dollar company. I just have to feel for a minute, Greg, that you're probably getting some pressure from the company that owns you to make this happen really quickly. And so when you're in a situation like that as a small company, and I know I did this as a small company, when I was $300,000, I'm taking anything that can breathe. Like, you can fog a mirror, we're going to do business with it. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right type of business. But because you're not a standalone, right? Because you've got support from another company, you have the luxury of not making the mistake that most small businesses make, which is they take all kinds of customers, even those aren't the right customers. So what I would say is where I would begin is get like crazy dialed into exactly who you want to go after. And then how to identify the multi-threaded stakeholders in those organizations that you need to be selling to. And once we know that, like, it's a lot easier once we know that to step into those personas and say, okay, when the person says this to this, this is how we respond to it. Or here's how we build our because statements, whether we're sending an email or sending a LinkedIn direct message or we're making a phone call. Here's how we build our messaging in order to better connect with these stakeholders. So we're selling our story to get them to have a conversation with us.
So Jeb, what resonated the most for you out of that clip?
Well, it's this kind of the scarcity mindset, and I, for a long time as a rep, would again take any deal that could fog a mirror, right? I would put anything into the pipeline. If someone messaged me on LinkedIn, hey, I think we might be interested in doing something with you, I was all over it. I couldn't let things go. I would win to a fault. I would allow the deals that I closed to drag down the deals that I should have won. It doesn't feel that way in the beginning, especially from a business owner standpoint. I mean, I didn't grow a business, but I grew up at Sales Gravy. When I was, 8 years old, watching Jeb do this in his office in our house in Florida. So I've seen the evolution of what we've done here at Sales Gravy, and he's absolutely right. I mean, at Sales Gravy, one of the many mistakes that we've made over the years is we've worked with companies that not for any reason of their fault or our fault, but we just weren't the right fit for each other. And that happens, and it's okay. I mean, I don't think there's anything inherently bad about that process. You have to learn it. But, as a sales rep, you're doing that as well. So your company has an ideal customer profile, but you also have an ideal customer profile. There are times when I was when I worked in the field and I was doing my sales process, and I would come home and be complaining about this prospect to you, and you vice versa to me. We had these complaints, and the conversation was, well, should you work with them? And, in some cases I would say, it doesn't matter. I need to close this. And that's not a great place to sell from. So getting your, ideal customer profile dialed in and then really honing your messaging around it not only helps with like the block and tackle stuff. So, what do your lists look like? And, who are the, people that you should be talking to in the business? And what are the RBOs that you can plan for? And how can you start to develop prospecting that doesn't get rejected every single time? That's great. But more importantly, from a emotional standpoint and a psychological standpoint, winning deals that create more value for both parties is way more fun than when you close a deal and you just know in your heart that it was maybe a big commission check or it was a great big, a badge that you can put up at the end of the year and say, I sold the biggest account, in November, for example. But in your heart when that deal closes that in January, they're going to churn. And it's likely just going to be a lot of pain, and you're just putting that off until you get through the holiday season. So, I think that's what I take away from it, is it's so important to be mindful that growth at all costs can cost a lot more than you were thinking it would.
Absolutely. No, I love your whole answer about that. And, if you're not going after the correct ICP from the start, like you said, there's just not as much success. But when you do define that ICP and close those deals, that relationship with those clients are always so rewarding, and the success that comes from it is astronomical. We still go through that a little bit here when we go through new product launches and that sort of thing. We think we've figured out the ICP, and then I have my team on our side and the deal comes to us to execute on the deliverables, and I go, ooh, I don't know about this. So it's so important to be on top of that and just get to that point.
How do you do that? Sounds great. Great conversation. Yes, of course. I mean, there's nothing I would necessarily disagree with in the conversation, but if I were listening to this, like, how do you do it? Well, the first thing I tell customers, and when I work with sales teams and we're going through ICP conversations and how we're developing our messaging for their outbound process, often the sales leaders and the directors and even the salespeople start with, well, it needs to be this role because someone else told them it needed to be that role. Like, it needed to be the VP of sales because someone told them it needed to be the VP of sales, and the VP of sales has the purse strings. And we have these conversations. We sort of like fantasize our own ICP. We kind of build it in our own heads without actually testing the market for it.
Mm-hmm.
And we go into these platforms and we start pulling out these different businesses that have like certain amounts of revenue at the top line, and you have this many employees, and you have this kind of technology within their business. And all of those technical things, we call them technical fits, they are important, and I think that you should be aware of them. But what I've learned over the years is that the people that you should go sell to are the people who love you and your business, who have already bought from you. So the first step is to go look at your best customers. And by best customers, it can literally mean, well, one, they're profitable. So you should probably do that. One, they're profitable. But two, you love working with them. Like, your team loves working with them. Your sales team loved working with them. Your account managers, your accounting department, your, whoever is doing the service of the business loves it. And they love you back. They let you know they love you, and they keep you accountable to delivering high quality service. Like, those customers are the ones that you need to replicate and replicate and replicate. And unfortunately, it seems like a lot of sales teams dumb it all down. They go, well, this company that loves us had the COO buy from us, so we got to go target all the COOs in the world at this level of business. And the COO that hired you at that business was only the COO because they had been the VP of sales for 20 years. And maybe they were a CEO of another, like, there's so much more backstory to that person. They're not 2D. There's a 3D human being behind whatever that was. And, your marketing department can help you out with this as much as, salespeople don't love working with marketing, but this is what marketing can do. And it can take it off your plate and say, okay, why? Why did this person, and why did this business, and why did this organization trust us? And why do we trust them? And it feels woo-woo, but it saves a lot of pain. Saves a lot of pain.
It does. It absolutely does. And, you mentioned digging into some of the longer term clients that you have in your list to help define the ICP. And I think the thing that we've started to see here in the trends as we do that with our own clients is the value alignment between the companies. And this kind of goes beyond the ICP, but they're definitely correlated, that, your longer term relationships, those values just align. And that's why there's so much joy through the organization for everybody to work together, not just the initial points of contact.
Yeah. Quick point here is to wrap this up. Okay. How do you, what can I say in a meeting? How do I do this in, real time? And, something that I wasn't very practiced at, but I kept doing when I was, younger in my career. And then as we've really developed our values here at Sales Gravy and what our principles are and how we do business, more importantly, when we really dialed in those as a leadership team, as a sales rep, one of the first things I ask people is, okay, what do you value most in a partner? What is it, if you were to partner with a company like Sales Gravy when it comes to your professional sales training and development, to help your team sell more, what do you value most in a partner? And those answers can be crazy different than the block and tackle answers of, well, we have this many salespeople, and we want them to be better at outbound prospecting, and we need them to close at a higher rate, and this is the conversations that they're having, and how can you help us with this? When I ask that question, it literally stumps people, and they're like, well, I value responsiveness, and I value communication, and I value that you have input in our business. And that's a really big key one, is when I hear, well, I want a consultant who comes in and is here to learn about my business, but also have expert opinion about how we're doing it. That is a customer that Sales Gravy can work super well with. We don't work well with people who want a training company that is just going to deliver a curriculum
and check a box.
And then check a box. And that's just not how we do business. So I really love that clip. And And I hope you all did too. If you haven't listened to that, that was another Ask Jeb episode where we bring guests on to the podcast with Jeb Blount, the author of Fanatical Prospecting, so that you can ask him real-time questions and get real answers. Go to salesgravy.com/ask and you can be a part of the podcast.
I think it's time for our next clip.
I get the story from Reddit as well. It says, I had a pediatrics practice ready to purchase a revenue cycle management service, whatever that means, for $1.4 million. And we had already negotiated terms. The last step was to follow up with references. And then from there, we were going for the signature. Someone on our sales operations team had the brilliant idea to put them in our early adopter program and didn't bother to include a test server for them to play with it. We crashed their entire live environment, costing them enormously, not just in money, but also in reputation with their patients, as they were sending bills to the wrong addresses and violating HIPAA law.
Oh, that's a
That's
big oof.
one. The deal was completely scuttled, and they just announced that they're leaving for a competing EHR. So we are also losing out on $600,000 in annual recurring revenue.
That is absolutely a nightmare.
I know what I got out of that clip, but I'd love to know what you got out of that clip.
Of me talking to my...
Yes.
Okay.
In your
what I got
She's the
from
Boo
me,
shirt.
what I got from me in the extra small t-shirt. If you haven't watched that clip, go to youtube.com it's our Halloween clip, is sales fails. And reading that Reddit story was really funny. And sometimes it do be your own company. But what I as reflecting in it on this episode is moving too fast is a real problem for most people in sales and a lot of companies as well. Like we do disc profiles, like high D, high I people. We tend to move really, really fast. And someone on that team, probably a marketer or somebody in the business operations team that has sort of a marketing or sales mindset, thought we can win more if we get them into a test pilot, right? And we've done that here at Sales Gravy. We've gotten people into test pilots. We've gotten people into our Sales Gravy University system or their learning management system, because we provide learning management system integrations with all of our learning on Sales Gravy University. And sometimes we move too fast because it's exciting. And then we talked about the carrot, and then we talked about, all the things that you can do to give yourself motivation. And sometimes it's natural, and we have this customer, we have the right ICP, and we know we can help them. We know they're the right fit. And even after all of that, it requires level-headedness and planning and strategy. And it's not huge. It doesn't have to be like big meetings, but I think in this situation that we got that sales fail from, just sit down and have a conversation before you start doing stuff. And I can tell you from, my own experience, I don't know if y'all have ever, this is like Sales Fails episode part 2, but I have sent DocuSigns that didn't have anything. You couldn't sign them. I've sent DocuSigns to the wrong company for the wrong contract because I was doing 2 deals at once, and I just have done that. I've sent proposals that were wrong. I've said yes to things that I shouldn't have said yes to because I wanted to help, and they asked me if I could do it, and I'm one of those people that's the yes is the answer, and now what's the question? And that gets me in a lot of trouble. So as I listen to the story, it is like, how can I learn how to slow down? And it is truly being hit by a stick and not a carrot, enough times that I learned I am now my own worst enemy. It is me that is the worst enemy, not all the other things that I couldn't control. I could control if I sent that DocuSign out. I can control if I move too fast. I can control my quality assurance process, and I can control seeing something in the business and saying, I need to have a conversation with somebody, and I'm going to be a squeaky wheel and make sure that this slows down and talk to somebody before it happens. Now, it sounds like this was a surprise, so I totally understand those situations happen, but from the lesson I learned from that is, let's slow down in 2026. Smooth is fast.
Absolutely. And, looking at how, if you struggle with that, what guardrails can you put in place? Because when we were selling telecom and we were getting to the end of the line with contracts, we had a whole automated system that would grade our deals. So if we were missing something or a signature line, it would pop back and reject us. But one of our practices here is just internally aligning We all get into a room for about 15 minutes and we run through the checklist of everything that has been sold for the deal and just make sure everyone's on the same page. All the technical requirements are 100% tied up. But that is a form of slowing down, because that's something that is very new to us in practice, but it's been very well received. I mean, it's nothing but positive impacts from taking that moment to just stop and pause.
Yeah, I think there's nothing but positive things that can come from stopping and pausing. Now, people who are in sales and have, again, those high D, high I mindsets, they hear pause and they hear death. That's the same for me. When someone says you need to slow down here, I think if I don't go fast enough, they're going to forget about me. Like, that's my internal angst or my anxiety around deals, is if I'm not pushing, they'll forget. And I need momentum. And if I lose the momentum, everything is gone. But I can tell you that it's worth losing some momentum to get it right, and maybe even losing a deal to get it right, than it is to win the deal. Talked about those ICPs, to win the deal too fast. I mean, we've gone through it with almost every single person we've ever brought into our sales team, including me, is, dude, did you listen? Did you talk to anybody about this? Why are we doing this suddenly? And then, there's lots of things you can avoid if you just slow down a little bit. So that's what I learned from that.
Awesome. Well, let's get to the next clip.
Yeah, absolutely.
What can I look at and maybe AI in this process that will give me the biggest bang for the buck? And in one example I give is I talk about this window company, how one place they could use technology or AI technology is in post-sales support. For example, Andrew Ng founded Coursera, right? And he sold it off, and he has this new company called Landing Lens. And Landing Lens is a vision machine learning tool. And here's how it works. It can actually compare images to its own database to tell you if something's on or off. So how would this work in the window company? So somebody can have a real tangible example as they're listening to this. Imagine you bought the window 1 year later, the seals break. If you start getting the steam inside the window, whatever, what am I looking for? The vapors, whatever it may be. And you said, okay, I got to call the company. Scenario A, the way it's done today, I call you up. You're the company. Hey, look, my window seal's broken. You can tell it's broken. I need somebody to come look at it. So, well, okay, we'll have to send somebody out there to do that. Kind of a worst case scenario, right? Now, here's the scenario with AI that's implementable today. What they've done is the window company uploaded all kinds of images of windows with broken seals. And they hit the button that says train. And now their AI machine is trained to recognize images. So now, back to the window, scenario 2. I call up and say, hey, I got a problem. Window's broken. Seal's broken. And then they'll say either point your webcam or send me the JPEG. By sending the JPEG, they'll take the picture of the window. It'll compare it to its database of windows and immediately detect that it is a broken seal. It'll then connect to the ERP system, see if there's anything in inventory. It'll then schedule a tech and find out the calendar date that's available, and then schedule to make sure you're under warranty, and then have something on the calendar to send somebody out. That is how the agents will work. And that is one way of saying, let me just solve this one problem in this long sales process. In this case, customer support. And this is how I would use AI.
Man, I love Victor. Oh, he's the one who coined me JBJ. So Victor, if you're watching or listening, we love you. Go connect with Victor on LinkedIn. He's awesome. And he will be at Outbound. So if you want to go to Outbound Conference, which is the biggest, baddest sales conference on the face of the planet, go to outboundconference.com. That's outboundconference.com. And you can go ahead and get your tickets reserved right now. And if you want to take your sales team, there are group discounts. So go to outboundconference.com and come see Victor do his amazing keynotes at Outbound Conference. But Ashley, that conversation was all around AI. And it's really interesting how he kind of portrays utilizing AI. But what did you get most out of that conversation?
Well, I love that he was talking about how a company used AI to generate more efficiency in one of their processes. And that's what we've been focusing on with AI and Sales Gravy itself. But with the department that I lead, we handle the client experience. So we took that angle. One of the things we did was for essentially like our ticketing system internally and for our clients, we used AI to automate the task scheduling so it can actually go through and delineate which account manager it needs to go to without me having to manually do it, which is a lifesaver. And then, just prompting, getting really effective at prompting with the AI. Sometimes in communication, sometimes I have half a thought of what it is I'm trying to figure out, and it's able to get me the rest of the way there. But that's really how our department has been engaging with it. Obviously you can't replace an actual human, but it can certainly make your life way easier.
If you watch that clip and you're interested in how to utilize AI more effectively, go listen to the podcast I did with Jake McCosker. He is a rep at a fairly large organization, and he talked about how to use AI for the discovery process, for prep, for prospecting. He had some incredible tactics there. The question that I want people to ask more instead of what can AI do, which is, talking about the features and what can it get its, hands into and, digitally, its fingers into, and what are all the opportunities and options for AI, and it gets really overwhelming. So the way that I reframe that question of what can AI do is, what am I already doing that AI can do for me? And that helps me look at a challenge, for example, communication. And I lead our creative marketing department. So when I'm trying to build out websites, I'm trying to deliver messaging. I'm also trying to sell things on the in these other departments. I'm also selling advertising. I'm doing all of these different jobs. Is I take AI and I go, okay, I was gonna spend 30 minutes and sit here and I'm building out a guide on reflex responses, brush offs, and objections, and how we all know you can plan for those objections. But I wanted to get a whole list of them that I could start to filter through and say, I think these are real, and I think AI made these up because it just hallucinates or whatever. But it helped me build a guide, and it thinks that that content for me. It does the 30 minutes of thinking in about 5 seconds, and I can just think a lot faster. The way that AI has really impacted my world this year that I have tangibly put my hands on is I can think a lot faster. And I'm a creative mind. I put together connections that are faster than most people when I'm there in conversation. I'm asking questions that they hadn't even gotten to yet. And that is a benefit, but it also hinders me because, again, I move too fast and I don't necessarily make the plan. I don't put things together well, and I'm very scattered. But AI has helped me slow down that process, but also speed up the progress that I make in the total project. So within 15 minutes of starting a project, I'm about 2 days in versus 30 minutes still thinking about what objections might be on this ebook or this download. And as a sales rep, I also do this as well. You think about ICPs and going, it's like having two people in the room instead of one, and you can talk to somebody. Be very careful because
yes.
I think that I'm the smartest guy in the world, and AI will also tell me that I'm the smartest guy in the world. And actually, you married me, and you know that I am not the smartest guy in the world.
I know the man behind the curtain.
Right. Yeah. So I think that be very careful with those things, but that's a good takeaway from Victor is, okay, what am I already doing that AI can do for me better or faster or just more robust, whatever that term is. And
for all the parents out there, it can also help you with science fair projects.
It can also help you cook in the kitchen. So this is not a sales podcast topic right now, but if you are utilizing AI, what you can do is literally go into your kitchen and take all the ingredients that you think you have, and vegetables and salts and peppers and herbs and anything, canned foods, anything you have in your kitchen, just type in a few of those ingredients and it will tell you what you can and cannot make, and it will tell you how to make them. So that's just a free tip.
And that's a wrap on our gift to you with all the best of from Q4.
Look, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. It has been an incredible 2025. I just want to let y'all know that the amount of people that listen to the Sales Gravy podcast this year would equal filling up Sanford Stadium, which is the home of the Georgia Bulldogs. Go Dogs. It would also, at the same time, fill Sanford Stadium, fill Texas A&M Stadium, and we would have about 20,000 people left over waiting outside to get tickets. Can't thank y'all enough for subscribing, listening, and being a part of this journey in 2025. We're going to be bringing on more amazing guests, more conversations that allow you to sell more every single day. Look, if you're listening to this and you heard all those things to the podcast, go to outboundconference.com. That'll be in Las Vegas in November. So go to outboundconference.com. Sales Gravy University is also available to all sales teams, including learning management integrations. If you're looking at Sales Gravy University and you haven't taken a course yet and you haven't signed up for anything, use the code FREECOURSE and you can take one free course on Sales Gravy University right now. And if you haven't given us a 5-star rating and a review on Apple and on Spotify, or followed us on YouTube and hit the bell and give us a subscribe so that you know when every single episode comes out from the Sales Gravy podcast, go do that right now. And again, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday, and we'll see you next year.
Hi, I'm Jeb Blount, best-selling author of Fanatical Prospecting, Sales EQ, Objections Inc., and my brand new book, The LinkedIn Edge. You know, companies and people from all over the world come to me to get answers to their toughest sales and growth questions. And that's why I created Ask Jeb. There's a segment on the Sales Gravy podcast where you can come and ask me anything. If you want to get on the show, just go to salesgravy.com/ask. That's salesgravy.com/ask. One of our great producers will get you on and you can ask me anything about sales. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure to click like and subscribe so you never miss a single video. And if you want more sales training content, go to learn.salesgravy.com.